I remember back in 2022 when I used to watch the Backroom videos on YouTube, as well as being crazy obsessed with the lore and watching all the Film 3 and MatPat videos. And recently they actually made a movie. So a week ago I actually watched that movie and I have some opinions I'd rather say. So today we're going to be discussing on whether or not the Backrooms is worth your time and money or just simply overhyped. Anyways, onto the video. Now, there's 5 things to make the Backrooms movie really good. And its first being its cinematography. See, I just love seeing shots of Mary sitting in a room, or that one scene where Clark had to get Kat and that one guy, or Clark just going into the Backrooms in general. It just reminds me about the love, care, and effort that Kane and A24 took into making those scenes happen. And it reminds me about another show that I love so much, which is called Better Call Saul, and how they did the exact same thing with their shots, and how every single shot or every single scene had their own story to tell. And that's what I also like about cinematography, you know? It's visual storytelling. See, remember that one scene after Clark went to the Backrooms for the first time? He went to Mary instantly and showed her his map of the Backrooms and started to explain it in very good detail. But instead of Mary looking surprised or, curious, she looked concerned. She looked like that maybe Clark might have went insane and that she just did not fuck with it at all. And that's what I like about visual storytelling. It foreshadowed that Clark would go to the Backrooms more and more and more, that he becomes so obsessed with the Backrooms that he'd live in it and die in it by his own entity, Captain Clark. And it showed Clark's true colors from the very beginning, on how he was so obsessed with the Backrooms, that how he never really wanted to change, that his own life sucks so much that he would rather live in the Backrooms because he felt like that he belonged there than in the real world. Then we got number 2, which is theme/moral. See, I just love the whole idea that the Backrooms is just this huge MRI machine that copies places and people and trying to remember them in their own version of the Backrooms. But as it keeps trying to remember places or people, they become more disfigured, more dysfunctional, to the point that they become nothing at all, to the point that the Backrooms forgets it entirely. And I just like the whole idea of remembering in general, and how the Backrooms movie took this new approach and this fresh take over the whole idea of remembering, and how it fits so well with the story, especially like, for example, Mary's house, as Mary's house gets copied into the Backrooms, it forgets it more and more and more, her house becomes more dysfunctional, more disfigured, to the point that it doesn't even become the house at all, to the point that it just becomes nothing, that the Backrooms completely forgot her house. And this goes with the still life and everything that the Backrooms is. It tries to remember things, but eventually forgets about them. And another thing that I like about the whole theme and moral is Clark's character development. You see, in the beginning of the story, Clark is someone who's trying to change, who always blames everyone else, like his wife, the world, for his problems, but not himself. And eventually throughout the story, when he gets more obsessed with the Backrooms and confronts Mary in the dining room scene in the Backrooms, and she convinces him that he's perfect the way he is, that he doesn't have to change, and that Clark accepts the fact that he's just wired that way and that that's just how he is, and then eventually gets killed by Pirate Clark. But yeah, just like the way that they took the idea of remembering and the whole theme of that and implemented it into the story in a really fresh and new way. Anyways, on to number 3, which is characters. You see, I just love the characters like Clark, Mary, Kat, Bobby, Phil. They all do their roles perfectly. And I just love the character developments behind every single character, Mary is like isolated. Clark goes through his character development of accepting who he is. Phil is an interesting person, I think that there's more to him that meets the eye, and they're gonna reveal something in the second movie. And I feel like that he's not telling us everything, there's a bigger picture to this and he knows it. And then we got Bobby and Kat, and they're just like the typical side characters, they just do their role, and yeah. Anyways, on to number 4, which is design. You see, I just love the design of the Backrooms and all its levels and all that. And I just love how every section of the Backrooms is different than the other. Like the pool area, the Christmas area, the chairs, and all its weird different places. Especially the chase scene where it's like Captain Clark is chasing Mary at the very end. And that's just really cool to see, like the set pieces and all that. And sometimes, I don't know about you guys, but when I was in the theater, I felt like that I was in the Backrooms with the characters. And that was just so cool to experience. So yeah, I just love the designs, especially Pirate Clark too, like the still life. I just love their cool designs, like Clark's wife, the janitor, the one guy in the wheelchair, and especially Pirate Clark. His design was so fucking cool. Oh my goodness, he looks so cool to see, and just him showing up on screen was so amazing. And then we got number 5, which is the VHS scenes. I just love the VHS scenes in the beginning of the movie and in the middle of the movie. And you know, whenever there's a VHS scene, someone's about to die. Something important is gonna happen. Something crazy about to happen in this bitch. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just love the chase scene where it's like Clark's getting chased by the entity, or the ASIC employee getting chased by Parker Clark, you know? That was so fucking cool to see, and it just brought me back to that 2022 era when it was like found footage 1, found footage 2, you know, first contact, all these like old videos back in 2022 that kickstarted the Backrooms universe. I just love to see that, and I just love seeing Kane giving fans what they wanted and fan service, you know? And it just brought me back to those old times, and the nostalgia that I felt from that was just so unimaginable. So yeah, those are all the good parts to the Backrooms movies. On to the bad parts. Now, there's 2 bad things about the Backrooms movie, and the first being it's context. Alright, there's barely any context throughout the whole movie, alright? Like, you're wondering when they're gonna explain about the still life or, you know, the Backrooms, and yes, they do, but they do it in like a very vague way that, like, if you miss it once, you're just cooked, okay? And especially at the very end of the movie where it's like Phil explaining to Mary about the Backrooms, and he does explain that the Backrooms is kind of like this huge MRI machine, but he only says it in like one line. So like, if you miss it, you're cooked, alright? Like, they explain it in a very vague way, and it doesn't hit you till like after you watch a bunch of Instagram reels of other people explaining the movie to you, if you know what I mean. I don't know, maybe I'm just stupid, but yeah, when you think you're about to understand the movie, they throw a curveball and something else happens, and then you're like, huh, how did we get here? Or what the hell is that? And then you just lost again, you know? So yeah, like, you don't really get the movie after you watch a bunch of like fucking YouTube shorts or Instagram reels. And a good example of this is Mary's backstory, alright? They barely explain her backstory throughout the whole movie, and we do see like some visions of the past, but we don't really know what's going on. Like, oh, her mom is mentally ill and she doesn't let her, you know, her daughter go out. But why? Okay, a car fucking smashes through the door. Why? Okay, she's in the mental hospital. Was that the FBI that smashed her door or something? Why is she being hunted by the fucking FBI or something? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you just are curious, like, what's going on? And then even at the beginning of the movie where her house is getting destroyed, why? Is it like for property, or like are they like making something and they need to move her house? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like really confusing shit that happens. And yeah, they just do like kind of like a really vague way of explaining it, you know? Kind of like they're making the movie for like people like film theory or like other theorists to like theorize about the movie, instead of like actually making a good fucking plot so people can like understand what the movie's going on. Like, don't get me wrong, the plot's good. I love the movie, and the more you think back at it, the more you understand the movie's like so fucking peak and the genius behind Kane. But at first time watch, you're just lost, alright? You're just fucking cooked. I really wish that like at the very end of the movie where we see like Mary and Phil talking, I really wish we got like more of that scene and more of like Phil, you know, explaining more about the Backrooms, going in like detail of like what's going on and whatnot, you know? I was really waiting for that huge exposition drop, but that just never happened, okay? The pacing was really good, but because of the pacing, they didn't have enough time to like explain the story, you know? I was waiting for things to cool down and for them to do the exposition drop, and just when they're about to do it at the end of the movie just fucking ends. Which brings me to my next complaint, you know, number 2 is the ending. Now, I think the movie ends off in a really weird place in my opinion, and the reason why I think that is, you know, remember that one scene where it was like Phil is talking to Mary in like that async area, and just when you're about to get all your questions answered, just when Phil's about to explain everything about the Backrooms, just when you're about to hit that exposition drop, the movie just cuts to the Backrooms, and we see like Clark's store, we see like houses, missing posters for Bobby and Kat, and Mary, you know, the still life of Mary, which is cool. And I like how Kane did that so fans can interpret, you know, the ending for themselves. But it's like, bro, you didn't even give us the exposition drop, you know? You didn't give us the answers that we wanted. You didn't explain everything yet. You know what I mean? Like, it just ends off into such a weird area that's like, I don't know if I'm satisfied or not, you know what I'm saying? Like, after first watch, it was like really hard to kind of like understand, and I feel like the ending would hit so much harder, you know, where we see like the still life of Mary, if we got more of that scene with Phil and Mary and we get to see like more of that exposition drop, you know, then I feel like that it would have hit so much harder. Pause. Now, here's the answer to the big question. Is the Backrooms worth your time and money? And in my opinion, yes. Yes, it is worth your time and money, and I would recommend the movie to anyone. Please go watch the Backrooms movie. It is such a good movie to experience, and like I said, after first watch, you're probably not going to understand it, but after a couple of days, of letting it process in your brain, and the more you think about it and whatnot, you'd actually appreciate the movie more, and you'd see like stuff starting to click in your brain that you never even thought of, and it just starts to make so much sense. And I just love that feeling, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, the Backrooms is so worth your time and money, and I'd rate the movie a 9 out of 10. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching the video. Please like and subscribe. Next week, I'm actually going to make a video on Obsession and talk about if the movie is worth your time and money. So if you want to watch that, please like and subscribe and stay tuned for that video. Anyways, have a nice day, and yeah, bye.